Hello out there. We're getting rolling again. We're going to ease back into the evening with some banjo, short pieces, and some poetry. I'll give you some background on this with Brad. Brad came up to, I was over at the Gratitude Cafe one night. One of our friends here, Paul Baker, was hosting the Writers' Night at Gratitude, which is every fourth Saturday, I believe, at 7 o'clock. Gratitude's up in the Bethany area. A great place to go for writers and music. Brad came in and said, you know, I wrote a poem after coming here for a month or two and listening to you guys read your poems. I thought, heck, I can do that. Yes, he could. He wrote a poem that he read that first night about his wife, Luann, who passed away earlier this year after the cumulative effects of early onset Alzheimer's. Brad spent many days with her in Omaha when she was in the facility there, and many days here. Some of the nicest pictures are out at Spring Creek Prairie, where Amy works and Brad works now, which is amazing. I am very pleased to see that he has a window to look out of that shows all 785 acres, if you have a little imagination. 785 acres of prairie grass.
I only have to pay him $1,000 a month to work there.
Oh, that's right. You've heard of those jobs in New York, you know, where you have to pay the establishment to wait tables because your tips are so good. I don't know if it works that way out there. I'm not sure. But I think most people, if they had an opportunity, would work at Spring Creek Prairie for almost nothing. It's a marvelous place. So Brad read his poem about Luann, and I said, Brad, I think you write wonderfully. You're inspired as far as that goes. So we really enjoy the poetry. He wrote more and more about Luann as time went on. And about, I think, 6 or 8 months ago here, he did the first rendition of some banjo pieces interspersed with some of his poetry that give you kind of a little bit of a chronology on what was happening with him and with Luann and her disease and the time as it went on. And then finally this year, he decided, yes, I'll come back and I'll give you a reprise of that and maybe some new poems. So without further ado, we have Brad Anderson, and Luann's here, and the banjo is going, and I don't think we'll have dueling banjos, but we will have one banjo dueling with itself, as Brad says. Brad Anderson.
Thank you, Rex. I mean, he's terrific. All the things that he does is just amazing. So thank you for asking me to come back. I'll just give you a little reprise. When I start, I don't talk between poems. I just play a little music and read another poem, and play a little music and read another poem. So I'll give you a little intro, and then after that, I'm just going to go. So most of these poems come from my own life experience, with the exception of the first one, which I guess in one way does. It's based on a photograph that I took of an old accordion player when my wife and I, Luann, were visiting Galway, Ireland, and this old accordion player was just bent over his accordion, and I thought he was asleep, and then I realized he was actually making music, and it was in the mall there in Galway. So I wrote a little story type poem based on that, and then the rest of these are all just based on things that have happened in my life experience about Luann and about me and us. So I'm just going to let it go, and if you want to clap or whatever, that's up to you. I won't be stopping. I'll just announce each poem by its name, and I'll play a tune, and then I'll announce the next poem and read it and go on. So here we go. This first one's called Accordion. It was dark when he rose. Another morning, another day. His bones wailed complaints, telling tales of his age. He lived alone now. She had passed years before. He boiled water for his tea, gnawed stale bread and cheese. The music was still in him. He knew he must play. It was lonely without her. His music brought her back. The day, cold and windy. She would laugh against the cold. He longed for her son, busking in thoughts of her. He looked in the mirror. He combed his white hair. He remembered a younger man. Mostly, he remembered her. He locked the door as he left. A long walk lay ahead. He wanted to be early, to lay claim to his place. He carried his instrument, a small folding chair, and all he would need to last him the day. Stone walls waist high lined the road on both sides. He had walked it with her more times than he knew. With her, he would run. He would dance down the road. Today was a journey, a long walk on old legs. When he got to the town, the shops were all open. He found his spot vacant and set down his chair. He sat against the wall and took out his instrument. The case he left open on the ground just beside him. Like a comfortable glove, his hands found their place. His left found the buttons, his right found the keys. Tapping his foot, he squeezed the box gently. Notes filled the air, his head bowed, his eyes closed. That's when he saw her. He knew she would come. She laughed and danced to his music. He played it for her. Passers-by left him coins. They praised his sweet music, but he never heard them. He was with someone else. He played until dark, eyes closed, gently swaying, never stopping to eat or leaving his place. When shops opened the next morning, they still heard him playing. The sun rose to his music and a woman's sweet laugh. That's when they found him, still in his chair. His foot had stopped tapping. His hands now lay still. He'd gone to be with her, to join her and dance. They danced with the sun, music still in the air. Talisman. The moon was full, and she was excited. Standing in the grass, she stared up at the orb. Then she took it out and placed the round, flat disc, silver dollar sign, in the palm of her hand. She rubbed it like a worry stone, a smile on her face. She looked down at the disc, traced her finger round the edge. The disc was smooth marble, save the crack where she dropped it, with mottled green flecks from the far west of Ireland. One side was smooth, the other held a penny. She turned it in her hand, trying to remember how to wield the talisman, how to call its power, how to change one's destiny, how to change one's fate. She smiled and held it up, then turned it in the moonlight. 3 times for the night, 3 times for the fates. Eclipse. It is between us. I cannot see it. Only round its edges, only parts of her. I can't get through. Walking in a midnight sun shines but gives no light, burns, but gives no warmth, blinds, but can't be seen, living in the half-light. Eos in her chariot cannot pierce the gloom, cannot race beyond the dark, or shine beyond the night. Nothing escapes the half-light. Only love can pass between, warm us in the gloom, bind us in the night. Only love can pierce the dark and shine beyond the half-light. Passing. I don't know if she chose, or even if she could. She stopped eating on Monday. Her eyes closed. They never opened. For rest and for sleep, I stayed close with friends, to be near in her need, to be with her on her way. I was grateful for her calm, her lack of agitation. She was cared for in turn, fluids offered, but none taken. All week at her side, moist cloths for her head. I sat beside her and held her. I was present in her presence. The sun rose on Friday. She would not see it set. I knelt down beside her and never got up. I spoke when I could, a one-sided conversation. She heard the sound of my voice. She knew I was there. Her bed was kept low, so I knelt on the floor, my face close to hers. We listened to music. As her time grew short, I recited a poem. I had written about her, but now spoke it to her. She had not heard my poems. I had not felt their power, the spoken incantation, the power of the verse. Words on the page seem silent and still. Words in the air thunder and weep. Kneeling at her side, her hand in mine, breathing shuddered, then stopped. I held her and wept. Older. I am older now. Technically, I was older than her 24 days after she passed. My birthday made it official. But I would rather still be younger. 7 years of dementia had taken its toll. Her white hair belied her age, but her loving spirit remained, and her laughter, always her laughter. Now I am older, and she is younger, and she will always be. My older self will dream of youth, and her forever young. Ode to the Wind. Here is to the wind that blows across the sea, that travels from the Gulf and up the rolling plains, that brings the southern moisture in raging summer storms and wakens dormant life from its long winter sleep. Here is to the musky scent of green mossy ponds, the smell of new spring grass and of rich fertile earth. Here is to the trees that rustle in the breeze, and here is to the shade they bring on long summer days. Here is to the blackbird that chortles in the wind, here is to the meadowlark that sings on blades of grass. Here is to the pheasant that calls its love beyond the hill, and here is to the wind that brings them all to me. Here is to the breeze, the caressing of my face, the tossing of my hair, the gentle touch upon my shoulder. As you wrap yourself around my soul, I comfort in your embrace. I am grateful for your gift when you bring her scent to me. Here is to the scent that travels on the wind, that blows across the hilltop and brings my love to me. Here is to the tall grass that whispers in the wind, and here is to the way we danced when she was here as me. Turn the page. Married her at 19 and got my first full-time job. I've never been without work. I've never been without her. If you had told me back then how this year would be, I'd never believe you. I was only 19. She died in January, lost my job on my birthday. For much, I am grateful. For her, most of all. I cherish our past and see the sun up ahead. To my life yet unwritten. Next chapter, turn the page. Emmett I knew you weren't tired, but I'm glad that you told me. We took another walk and spun helicopter seeds. You walked atop a wall, and I only helped when you asked. We'd taken 2 walks before, each as fun as the other. We read books and played cars, did puzzles on the floor. We ate apples and cheese to nourish our play. So after our last walk, when you said you weren't tired, we fixed peanut butter crackers and started a movie. 5 minutes later, you were asleep, a half-eaten cracker still at your lips. I threw on a blanket and watched as you slept. While you gently dreamed, I made you this promise. I'll always be Grandpa. You just be Emmett. Song of Summer. Sunlight shimmers, leaves flutter in the breeze, and a cottonwood chorus sings a song of summer. Reeds turn brown, ponds shallow in the heat, and the willows drink deep and sing for summer rain. Yellow goldenrod tell tales of summer passing, and the tall grass listens to the singing of the trees. The sumac bleeds and the milkweed bulges, and the cottonwood trees sing of summer's end. Wait. Sunlight angles across the porch, casting shadows in the yard. Tall grasses display their seed heads, and the bush roses bloom as always. Life is still full and vibrant, yet tired from summer growth. Cool temps and shorter days, change is present in the air. It is early fall, that time between when trees still green begin to turn. First gold or red, then finally brown, their leaves start falling one by one. After the lush green rush of spring, it is fall, and the warmth of summer days. It is fall I always cherish most. I wish for it to stay. As my own autumn comes, I am grateful for my bounty. I want to linger here between and make winter wait. Norma. Luann's sister died today. She never met her or even knew her, but they were sisters just the same. My heart broke with the news. A sister lost we never knew. I ached and I wept for her sister far away. Norma's family by her side, she rose with the angels. Our hearts lift her up, her soul flies above. Luann waits to greet her, to meet her at the gates. Soul sisters far above, free at last. Pain. When he arrived at home, he found himself alone again and forever. The celebration of life had been wonderful, and he knew she would have loved it. But he was home now, and his alone was complete. The floor creaked as he crossed the living room, and he wondered if it was listening for her steps to follow his. He settled into the love seat and turned on the light. Now what? He could do whatever he wanted, but he could never do what he wanted. He wanted to be with her. Brad? Yes, he replied. Then he remembered he was alone. For 7 years, he had watched as the woman he loved had faded in front of him until all that remained was a vessel that carried her and the love that bound them. For all those years, she was here, yet not here. Towards the end, the only way he knew she was here at all was when she laughed and smiled when she saw him. When all else was gone, love remained. He could feel her now more than ever. An air current brushed his cheek, and he could sense her moving through the house. The stairway creaked, and he knew she was drifting up the stairs. He could almost hear the covers rustle as she laid down, and the bed embraced her. It is not her ghost, but her presence. She is everywhere. He had almost forgotten the pain. It had started when he began losing her, slowly at first, a little loss each day, a name, a face, a family friend, and with each new loss, the pain grew until it became part of him. Now, he not so much felt it as needed it. Without it, he could not breathe, his heart could not beat, and his eyes could not see. The pain was as intense as the love they shared. It would have been truly sad if he felt no pain. He knew he would carry it always. As he sat on the love seat, he leaned into the pain to feel her love, and he smiled as he replied again to the empty space around him. Yes, my love, yes. Thank you.
Well, it's hard to speak. I can't imagine how you read and then played and read and played. Thank you.